It's very windy. Look, I've got our boom tent on because I'm doing a huge job on the boat and it's surviving quite well, but it's blowing 40 knots. But I need the tent over for what I'm doing. What am I doing? Well, Melissa and Jack and Ollie are away. They're visiting my daughter and seeing her dad who's in hospital. And that gives me the chance to do more of these jobs that I can't do with the kids on the boat. I wanted to tackle the kids' bedroom so that Ollie can move in there, because currently he sleeps in the forepeak, and so that Jack has got somewhere better to study and do his Legos and what have you. The first thing I've got to do, of course, is clear everything out of the aft cabin so that I can really get to grips with what I need to do in there. So as you can see, I've already removed all of the mattresses and Jack's books and toys and everything. Now I've got a bit of a crazy idea. Some of you might not like this, but this head here, Jack never ever uses it. He values somewhere to paint and draw a lot more, and it's just ended up becoming a bit of a dumping ground. Some of you might think it's a stupid idea, but I think it's going to be really, really cool. So I'm going to start just by taking everything else out of the room that I can possibly remove. You may have noticed this episode is a long one, almost an hour in fact. Now I did consider splitting the episode into two halves, but I didn't feel there was a natural break point, and also I wanted to do an episode where I start and finish one project in the same video. Do remember though, if you don't like these longer episodes, you can just press the pause button, stop whenever you want, and come back to watch the rest later. Now, if you remember, there was a leak in this little cupboard, which Jack investigated and I investigated, and I thought I'd fixed it, and I hadn't. And earlier on in the year, I did a new insulation and headlining above the berths. But this area on my right, which I'm going to show you in a second, has always been a bit troublesome. It's below the hatches and quite typically below washboards and hatches and stuff on boats. You quite often get a bit of water ingress. And over the years, this has been bad. Are you ready for this? This is now what that area looks like. So I've taken out the entire head's cubicle. I've stripped off that entire bulkhead because all of that's the actual bulkhead. That's the solid bulkhead, and it's rock solid. But all of the veneers that were on it, look, they're all just teak veneer, and it's all just crumbling apart. And that was a piece of, I don't even know what that was for, but look at the mould behind there, and that was screwed and glued to here behind the door somewhere. Goodness only knows what for. So my plan is to turn this into a great big desk unit. It will still have the washing machine under it, so that it doubles up as a desk for Jack to do his work, book storage, somewhere for him to build his Legos. So it'll be a kind of study desk, art desk, craft desk, book storage, toy storage, Lego building, Airfix models, you know, and if we want to do any building projects, we can do it on there. And I might store some of my tools in there, because Jack's now getting to the age where he's starting to use my tools anyway. So it's not like they're my tools and I'm putting them in his bedroom. They're sort of our tools because Jack uses them and I use them, and you know, we just kind of share our tools now. It's getting that way, obviously not dangerous. So onwards and upwards, keep going. So it's all cleaned up and painted out in primer. My next job is to paint it out in a white top coat. The aft cabin is all painted out in 2 coats of marine primer and 2 coats of a polyurethane hardtop top coat. There'll be more paint going on here anyway, but this will all be behind stuff, won't it? So it's not it's stuff nobody will ever see. The next thing I've got to do then is rebuild the sole boards, because down here, obviously, with the arrangement with the toilet cubicle, the heads cubicle, the floor was on 2 different layers, and this teak floor only went up to there, and then there was some plywood flooring with horrible old floral pattern melamine in there. That's gone. So I'm going to have to create something out of nothing now. Okay, so the floor is done. That whole area is all the original teak, solid teak and holly. This area here is plywood, which I've got some mahogany, so I might face this with mahogany, but a lot of it's going to be under the desk and under the washing machine. So it's not actually that essential to face all of this. So I'm going to hold fire on the cosmetic side of the sole boards until I've built the carcasses, as it were. This section of the sole board, I'm going to put latches in, but that now lifts up so I can access the stern gland, and that section lifts up so I can access the back end of the cutlass, you know, the cutlass bearing bolts and that kind of thing. So onwards and upwards, the next phase is to start framing out for the carcasses. The standard way of doing this in a kitchen is you build it all in sheet. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to build it in pine, tannalized treated pine, and then I'm going to use marine ply on top of that, and then I'll face it with whatever I want to face it with. I'm trying to retain the character of the boat as much as possible, so we don't want to paint everything white. We like to have bits of white, not this, I don't know why I'm pointing at that. We like to have bits of white around the boat because it freshens the boat up and brightens it up, but we also don't want to completely get rid of the character of the boat. So what I'm tending to find I'm doing is, if there's an area of woodwork that's just really tired and can't be saved, then I'll probably do it white for now until we can afford to buy veneers. because veneer is ferociously expensive. I've got some, but probably not enough to do the whole job. So there's going to be a mix of modern and traditional. So I'm working within my means and with what I have, and trying to do the best job possible. I think it'll look all right. So this is just a carcass. This is all going to be like, you know, this is just the kind of basic layout. The washing machine is now under there, so there'll be a door in this side for the washing machine. The ladder will come down here. Jack's desk will be here, and he'll have pockets for all of his art materials. There'll be a kind of cool little cubby hole here. There'll be more pockets back there, possibly for books or whatever he wants to put in. And I'll do a shelf above his bed here. There's room. I've cut the seat here, so there's plenty of room. I've got my thighs are going over the fiddle, but obviously I'll have the mattress on here. I might add a piece to the desk, because at the minute I feel like it's just a little bit too far away. Well, I've got to kind of sit at it a bit and think about it. But the nice thing is all of the through holes and the steering gear is all boxed in, or it will be boxed in. It's protected from his feet. So that's good. I'm happy with that. One thing I want to do, and I need to do it before I do the shelving, because I want to put some like shelves up here and in the corner here. I want to put a port light here that opens, and I want to put one in the galley as well. And I'm a bit frightened. I'm a bit frightened about doing it because it's cutting a hole in the boat, and if I mess it up, it'll it's not the end of the world. I can repair it, but I don't want to mess it up. And I'm a little bit sluggish today because I stayed up and watched the fight last night, and I've had an idea. You know, there's this kind of paradigm for YouTubers challenging heavyweight boxers to fight. So how about I challenge Mike Tyson to his next fight, and in fact I'll fight Mike Tyson and Jake Paul at the same time for 5 million quid. How about that? You know, that'll be a spectacle. I'll take them both on for 5 million. Deadly serious. Anyway, that's going to go there, I think. Pretty pleased with that. I've just put some screws in to hold it up for now. I've got to get the right nuts and bolts for the thickness of the fiberglass, and there is a stainless trim, but what I want to do is I want to make some wooden ones that match the wooden trim around the pockets in the cockpit. I don't know if you've ever seen them, but I'd like to try and make some wooden trims for the outside. So I'm probably not going to fit those stainless trims until I've had a go at that. I might admit defeat, but now Jack can sit here, work on his desk. He can have a little shelf here for some knickknacks and some bits of Legos. He can have a shelf here. He can have cubby holes under here, as I've said, and you know, and when he wants some fresh air, he can just open that and he can have fresh air and show us his drawings and his Legos, I suppose. This panel here goes up there like that, but it's in pretty poor shape. It's quite badly sun bleached in places and water damaged in others. It's got a few screw holes in from where it's had fixtures and fittings. There's a piece chipped out, and this piece of nice teak along the front is good. I like that. This is where it was fiberglassed onto the bulkhead, so it's actually two pieces of wood. It's thin veneer look, glued onto some 5mm ply, and it's got lots of old crappy fiberglass on the back. Now I'm going to try to reuse it, so my first thing is I want to try to restore it back to its former glory. I don't think that is going to be restorable. I can keep this, but I'll probably paint that white. We'll see. Let's strip it back first and see how we get on. I'm quite pleased with the way this has come out. The teak has come back up nicely. Obviously it's not varnished yet. I'm not going to do any varnishing or painting until the very end, but you could still see where there were screw holes in it, because I've used the whole glue and sawdust trick to fill the holes. And the little patch there, I might do that again. I'm not entirely happy with it, but I need to move on. So I'm not going to spend hours and hours and hours doing something again, but I might come back to that, might not. If I put a little bookshelf there, you won't see it anyway. But I think that's nice, and it retains some of the original wood. You know, I've retained as much as I could on the sole boards, and I'm trying to keep as much of the original timbers as I can. Right, that's great. I can move on now. What I wanted to get this in so that I could see where I could build the cubby holes, because they've got to fit around that port light, haven't they? extended the desk out at the front here. I filled that piece in. If you're wondering why I'm using such small pieces of ply, I'm using pieces that are 4 foot by 2 foot. It's because we live on a boat. The nearest shop where I can get plywood is about 8 miles away, and I've been getting a lift with Wayne to go and fetch wood, which is so helpful. Wayne, thank you, thank you, thank you. But it's either this size or 8x4s, and you can't get 8x4 sheets in Wayne's car, so I'm building it in sections. But it won't make a difference, because this is the structure and then it will all be covered. So this will all be covered in something, maybe teak veneer, but something. So don't panic about that. However, I've brought the table forward because I felt like that was too far away. There's plenty of room under the desk for your knees now. What I've now got to do is start working on cubby holes, and then access for the washing machine and shelving underneath. I've raised the level of the floor here so that when you're sitting on the seat, your legs aren't swinging. I've started boxing in here. That's the box in the steering shaft, and there's further boxes back which box in the through holes for the old heads. In hindsight, I wish I'd removed those through holes and glassed them up when we had the lift out, but to be honest, I didn't have time. And it does mean that if we ever decide to backpedal and put the heads back in 10 or 20 years time, they're there and we can do that. So I'll just make them off and make them good. So it's starting to come together though, isn't it? I think it's starting to look great. I want access cupboard here above the washing machine. I want a cupboard front here for the washing machine itself, and I want the cubby holes, and that's my next job. I've got a load of this old tongue and groove mahogany floorboard, which I'm going to try and make use of. It's in pretty bad shape, but let's see what I can make of it. These bits here are the original teak fiddles from the saloon table. The table itself was knackered, but the teak fiddles around the edge were good. So I don't want to put a fiddle on this because I don't want Jack to hurt his arms when he's working, doing his schoolwork, but I do want to trim around the edge and put radiuses on and stuff. So I'm salvaging. I've got a huge pile of reclaimed timber at the back here that I've salvaged from different things and picked up from bins and things like that, and I'm just kind of taking it all back to the bare wood so I can see what I've got and hopefully start making this look a bit pretty. What I'm doing now is making the face plate for down here to over the front of the washing machine. I'm sort of working it out as I go along, as I have been with the whole project. This piece of teak here is part of the door frame that was originally part of the heads door. The bottom of it was a bit soft, so I've cut that off. I'm just cleaning it up at the minute, and then I can start using sections like this for the front of the washing machine cabinet. I generally use these metal scrapers and a chisel to take varnish off, and sometimes I sand it off if I'm feeling lazy. This piece isn't quite long enough, but I found the bit that was cut off it when it was correct, and it's a perfect fit. I could just butt joint that and glue it, but I think I'm going to do some sort of mechanical joint as well, perhaps a biscuit joint if there's enough meat here. I'm just going to route a little slot across both of the ends that butt together and stick some sort of biscuit in to, you know, dowel type thing to join the two parts together.
I've come out to do a bit of a deck check because this morning it's blowing constant 40, 45, and gusting to 60 knots. So it's very early. It's only, you know, early in the morning. I've still got the tent over, which is working really well actually. It's keeping the cockpit really dry and it's making the cockpit a lot warmer. It's well secured and I've got it lashed right down so not much wind can get underneath it. It's really strong. So I was thinking about getting rid of that, but in hindsight I think I'm going to keep it because if it can survive this, it can survive anything. So we're absolutely fine. We're getting blown on, so I'm checking my fenders, but my lines aren't in any danger. But yeah, it's nice. It's all right. Well, it's not nice, it's horrible, but hopefully we won't get too many of these. But I want to do some sailing in 40 knots this winter if we can. Or maybe not 40 knots. I want to do some sailing in some bad weather. I can't because obviously the bowsprit's still off. But and I'm on my own, it would be silly. But there you go. It's pretty grim.
But despite the howling wind outside, I've put my dirty t-shirt and my dirty trousers back on because I'm back in here. So what have I got left to do? Trimming. I want to trim around the edge of this. I want to fix those cubbies and finalise the trim around there. There's a bit there. I want to re-veneer that bulkhead. I want to put a shelf up here. So there's lots of little fiddly jobs to do. And then it's lots of sanding and then I can get onto the varnishing. So not much left to do, guys, which I'll hope you'll agree is a good thing because the episode's already long enough and I could have made this a shorter episode, but I thought it was all worth including, and occasionally people go, oh, I like the longer episodes. So cool, let's get on with it. I've already drilled out the pan holes with this larger drill, which has got a built-in countersink. All my wood bits have got adjustable built-in countersinks. I'm now chasing those holes out with a smaller drill bit, because then if you've got a larger diameter pen, it'll fit in the top of the hole, but if you've got a smaller diameter pen, it'll go deeper down and be a snug fit in the slightly smaller hole at the bottom. While I use the angle grinder with a flat wheel to carve these into shape, I'm just going to glue them down with super glue, because then I can detach them quite easily. I can just give them a tap and knock them off if I need to move them or adjust them or change them somehow, or if I want to change them. But also it means that then I can knock them off and glue them down with some proper glue afterwards. If you're wondering, the super glue that I use is just, well, it's a slow cure low viscosity cyanoacrylate designed for picture framing, mitering, and it comes with a kicker, which is trichloroethane, I think, which just simply it just makes the glue go off a little bit quicker, so you've got a little bit of wiggle room. For those of you wondering about PPE and breathing, I've got an air-fed respirator here, which has got a fan that and a filter, and it feeds air up into my mask so that it doesn't steam up, and it means that I'm not breathing any air from outside, you know, my mask. I do have paper masks as well. You'll see me using a combination of the two. Sometimes I'm a bit naughty and I forget to put it on, but I do try and use it wherever possible, because hardwood sanding can be quite unpleasant and aggravate your chest a little bit. So I'm using this now. The difficulty I've got is I got this second-hand off eBay. The battery in it is a lithium ferrous battery that, so I have to remove the battery to charge it up. It's a drone battery basically. I'm going to modify it to work off one of my power tool batteries. But this means that I can actually crack on and start doing some carving with the angle grinder. The cupboard above the the shelf above the bed is now made. The glue's drying on there. There's a bit of sanding and fettling and trimming to do. I've got this panel back off the wall because look, there's a kind of a space here, and I've mentioned this before. So I'm actually going to try and make a bit of a miniature cubby hole, hidey hole, for him to keep some sort of secret little Lego men or you know, whatever, Hot Wheels cars or something, and he can hide them away and stop Ollie getting hold of his favourite toys. So that's what I'm doing now. While the glue on this cubby hole is drying,
I've got a couple of these little Vetus opening port lights, the little tiny round ones. Obviously I've put the big one here above Jack's desk. I want to put this one on the opposite side. I've installed the little port light on this side here, which is lovely. That's a sweet little thing. Lets a little bit more airflow in. I've finished all the woodwork, but the veneers on this side are knackered, aren't they? They're going to need sorting out. So now what I can do though is turn my attention back to this. The glue is now dried, and I can start fitting the little door onto that little tiny cubby hole. Right, I'm finally done. What I've got to do now is sand everywhere, clean up all of the glue that's squeezed out, and get painting. I'll keep the sanding montage quick because I think that's quite boring to watch. So, sanding montage, just a quick one. We're nearly there. I've got all my varnish and brushes and everything ready. I've finished sanding. I say I've finished sanding, it's such a complicated space. I'm bound to have missed somewhere, and I'm going to kick myself when I find, oh, I forgot to sand that bit. But it's probably going to happen because, you know, I'm doing my best. But with the best will in the world, you're going to miss stuff, aren't you? And hey, you know, that's okay. I'll forgive myself for that. I've worked my backside off on this job. So before I start varnishing, I'm wiping down. I'm using varnishing time. I've wiped everything down with panel wipe. I'm using Epiphanes, of course, and thinning the first coat to 50%, and then subsequently reduce the amount of thinning on each coat until it's only the last coat really that you put on unthinned. Let's get varnishing.
So that's one coat of varnish done. Now I need to do about 6 coats with 24 hours in between and sanding in between, so I can't show you that. But I've done 1 coat of varnish. It's still just slightly tacky, and I've painted all of the baseboards, so the whole place is freshened up. But the project is all done really. There's maybe a few little corners I want to tidy up. Obviously I need to fit that port light when I finish the varnishing. But I'm very, very pleased with how it's come out. I think it looks great. I think Jack's going to love it. I'm going to resist the urge to bring everything. The rest of the boat is a complete tip, but I need to get everything back in here, but not until I've finished the painting and varnishing. So over the next few days, I've got some more exciting things to do before Melissa and Ollie and Jack get back. Melissa's dad is unfortunately very, very poorly, sadly, but so that's why she's away really. She's visiting her dad and seeing my daughter and stuff. So, but I've got some exciting stuff to do while they're gone, partly to do with the wiring. So I'll be getting new lights and stuff up in here. You can see I've got one balance there, some wiring of, rewiring of some of the Victron stuff. Some work in the cockpit hopefully, but we'll see how I get on. And interspersed with that, I'll be finishing off the varnishing in here and bringing all of Jack's stuff back in. Thank you for bearing with me on this mammoth episode. I think it's about an hour long, which is by far the longest episode I've ever done. And I did think about splitting it into 2 halves, but then I thought, well, there was no natural sort of break point in the middle. So yeah, I shan't keep you any longer. Thank you to our patrons for supporting us as always. Thank you to you guys for liking and watching and commenting and everything that you do to support us. And yeah, next episode is going to be an absolute mammoth one as well. Hopefully not as long as this, but I'll see you next time. Bye.